What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. All of our friends are down in Nashville hanging out. That's where Adam is this week, so we're going to be missing him. But we do have some friends on stage, and we're going to have some fun. Dude, I woke up today and saw there is like 1 million Bitcoin updates. So I'd love to go through those and just have a little fun with our friends who did not attend Nashville. So we get to have some fun. What's up, Chris?
Yo, what is good? Obviously, a ton happening in the market. Kamala's in, Kamala's out. Bitcoin conference is booming. I mean, just a kind of crazy place to be in the market. I don't know. Ethereum ETF launched. It does not move a single inch. Everything pumps except for it. Pretty crazy dynamics, but yeah, if anyone wants to come up and chat, and let's see what's going on in the market.
Dude, before I went to bed last night, I had one live Twitter Spaces on my feed. I can't remember the last time that it's ever happened, dude. Engagement is just horrifically down across the board. That's okay. We're still here, surviving. What's up, Dave? How you feeling today?
Yo, you just called me literally at the worst time. I was just about to jump in the shower. I thought you were going to be listening mode.
Are you good? Just listen.
Know what?
You good? Just listen to us around, but I just want to say what's up.
Let's go, boys. I might make a last minute ditch effort to go to fucking Nashville because there's some crazy shit going on, man. I don't want to miss out on any of that stuff, bro.
Yeah, I know. That was Chris and I were talking about the same thing, but we had to stay back for the team and work with Shannon to work on some Emblem stuff while we had some of our other team members go down there. There's a lot, dude. There's so many events that I've been invited to. A little bit sad, but that's okay. You know, we're hanging back for the squad. First note, obviously, as Chris mentioned, we had two things happen yesterday. First, the ETH ETF and also the Mt. Gox BTC. From what I've read, about 1/3 of all Mt. Gox Bitcoin has been received from Kraken from the Mt. Gox deposit wallet. Unlike ETH, where the ETH ETF had the price go down, it looks like the Bitcoin price has gone up, which we had kind of discussed this over the last coming weeks about the Mt. Gox Bitcoin. I mean, some of these people have been holding on for literally 11 years to receive this. And the majority of those people actually just hung around the space and probably made a lot of it back. So I think this was actually more of a bullish event than it was a bearish event. Chris, have you seen any information surrounding the Mt. Gox BTC?
Not too much. It's actually been a little bit quieter than I thought that it would be because there was such kind of a buildup for it. But I mean, it's just one of those things that everyone kind of gets a little bit weary of in the time leading up from it. And then sometimes it just happens to be a non-event. But, you know, we are going into a conference week more oftentimes than not. You know, the crypto gods don't let the conference attendees be blessed with a good price week. A lot of the biggest nukes in the history of the market have happened on, conference weeks. So let's see what this one brings. But it's good to finally, after so many years, get the Mt. Gox kind of overhang past us once and for all.
Yeah, without a doubt. Not really much else to say there. I mean, 1/3 of that wallet is still around $2 or $3 billion. But with the amount of Bitcoin that boomers are literally just consuming on a daily basis, like 500 million just being gobbled up, you see what this tells me is that you have some long-term holders who are cashing out at the top, or they're cashing out right now, and then all the boomers are holding on. There was a Spaces, or I should say a podcast actually. There's a podcast I listened to a few weeks ago, which is the two ETF guys, Eric, and I think the other guy's name is Jason. They had noted that I think the Bitcoin ETF has over a 90% hold rate right now. So the boomers are actually holding on a lot better than all of our crypto native compadres are doing, just dumping on everybody. So no news there. On the other side, though, the Ethereum ETF had over 1 billion in flows. I think almost half of that, though, was the outflows from people just exiting Barry's ETH trust that they've been stuck in for the last three or 4 years or so. And they have to pay that 2.5% exit fee on the way out. Barry's making sure to make some of that money back. Chris, tell me a little bit. I know you've follow this a little bit closer. What are your thoughts on the ETH ETF? I would say it has to be bullish, though. I mean, $1 billion in flows is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just a lot of cash and carry trade where they're shorting futures, buying the underlining. It's kind of just crazy to see Grayscale give up such a big lead. And yeah, they can take the fee on the way out, but they really pioneered this product. And it just kind of sucks to see them just fumble, the entire market share of the ETF world to just these legacy banks that own every other ETF. So, I mean, I wish that they had a better strategy there. They obviously held that capital pretty hostage for, 5 years plus. But I mean, they've really pioneered the product. So I'd like to see them kind of innovate and do a little bit better rather than just gouge on the way out. They could have just slashed the fee and kept their entire TVL, but instead they decided to go a different route. As far as just kind of price, Ethereum price, I mean, there's no question about it. It's been the probably worst performing asset in of the majors, going forward and or looking back for the past year. Definitely a disappointment all around, but I mean, I can't imagine how crowded that trade is. There's got to be a ton of trap longs that were just kind of, waiting for some massive price action. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some pretty crazy wicks over the next few weeks.
Says first day of ETH ETF stats here. The inflows were $590 million. The outflows were 481 million. It looks like over 300 million of those outflows were from the ETH. So you have a net inflow of 106 million. And it says the supply increase of ETH this year has been about 155 million. So the demand in one day is almost the same as the supply in 2024. That's if you want to have a little bit of a bullish hat on. Where this goes from here, unsure. I saw there was over 500 million in outflows today, again from Grayscale. I'm trying to look for some of the more recent stats. Although I had been listening to the ETF experts, and they had said that the first day total was about 1/4 of the first Bitcoin ETF day total, and so it seems like they're pretty long, but it does appear though that they're trying to find what the narrative is for Ethereum. Bitcoin was pretty easy to sell to the stock market, right? You just say digital gold, hyperinflation, selling them the idea of Ethereum as, right, the internet computer, which was the original narrative, or, right, you could say yield bearing asset, but they didn't include staking in this round. So right now it's a little bit flat because there's really not much to go on. Oh, it's Eric Balchunas is one of the guys who's the leaders in that spot. I think overall, I still think it's great for Ethereum. It's so great for altcoins to just even have the exposure there. But it does seem like it's lacking a little bit of a narrative moving forward. So as something to follow, I try to not follow the price as much. I don't know if Chris, if you remember, there was a time where Bitcoin, this cycle seems to be a little bit different, but the previous cycles, Bitcoin had maybe like a week or two of like a violent up move, and then it would literally just consolidate for literally like the remainder of the year. I think that was in 2017 and in 2021. This year, it seems like Ethereum's kind of following that, where it's literally been stagnant for years. And whenever it does break out, it's probably going to gig ascend. I don't know what's your take on that.
Yeah, for sure. There's always like something like between 7 and 10 days in the market per year that if you miss those days, you basically miss all of the returns for the entire year. That's why, like, that's a strong argument for the investor versus trader. But if you miss one of those key days of a 5 to 8% move, 10% move, your returns for the entire year are kind of screwed. Obviously, super bullish on just the Ethereum ETF getting approved and what that means for digital assets and everything like that. Eric and Jeff Safright, he's the other ETF guy. They've kind of been on top of that. Huge milestone for the industry. I'm happy that we got here. When we did, I'd just like to see. I think that the ETH narrative of Wall Street doesn't understand it. I see that going around a lot. I think that's just kind of cope. I think Wall Street are pretty sophisticated investors. They invest in everything from GPUs, chips, every narrative, every tech narrative that's ever existed since the dot-com bubble. So just to think that they wouldn't understand, 1 degree past Bitcoin is just, I feel like that's just cope. It just F needs a narrative in itself of what it can do, compared to its counterparties. Like, what does it do better than Bitcoin, and what does it do better than Solana? And I think that, so far in the cycle, it just hasn't been able to find that narrative that would clear it out. But I think it will. It just, decentralized computing, just in general, that it's much more liquid than Solana can ever be, less liquid than Bitcoin, but still, super liquid, high quality asset. And I think that, a lot of these investors, they're really just looking for price exposure rather than even caring about a narrative. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it catch on towards the end of the year.
I watched a recent Vitalik presentation at one of the Arbitrum conferences, and the entire presentation was on L2s. And I found it kind of interesting for multiple reasons. One reason was that he's beginning to classify L2s on Ethereum as servers, better servers, because he's basically come to acceptance that his original vision of L2s on Ethereum, he mentioned this in it, that he thought it would be something like Lightning, and ultimately ended up being kind of these private L2s that are very centralized. And so he said that L2s are servers, but better in the sense. And he actually goes on to show this almost like it's like the crypto trilemma, where there's like a triangle, but he actually makes it like a 3D figure. I forget what the shape is called. And so from the three sides of it, it's like app specific, decentralized, and EVM purist. And on the back side, it's server, and then proof of solvency. So is there ZK snark involved? Like, how decentralized really is it? And so with this kind of idea, you could kind of predict or foresee where the future of Ethereum's going, where the L2 space is going to be just predominantly mostly app chains is kind of where I'm seeing this going. The question then becomes, right, will Wall Street like that? Because that is much more similar to Web 2 than it is to Web 3. Or, right, or do they want, and do they quench something more of decentralized assets like Bitcoin? And eventually, right, you'll have things like Dogecoin and Litecoin and Solana and more smart contract platforms proliferate the stock market. So I highly recommend people to watch that. You just type in Ethereum L2 speech from Arbitrum. It was like a week or two ago, maybe like a month or two ago. Really, really interesting to kind of see where it's going. That's, I think, where the differentiation is going to happen, is just more of like app chains, I guess, whereas Solana you're seeing is doing more consumer focus. And maybe that's where Ethereum is now trailing the lead of Solana, saying that they kind of lost the plot narrative. And they do have the more decentralized blockchain, but on the L2 aspect, we'll see more app chains. So something to follow.
So what do you think about that real quick, Jake? So, we talk about the L2 ecosystem often, comes with a ton of benefits, a few drawbacks. But do you think that it's just too far spread out, that there's way too many L2s? That seems pretty obvious. Should the foundation kind of focus its efforts on supporting a handful and kind of growing those L2s? Or what do you think the foundation should do in this kind of spread out environment where there's a million L2s and there's no apps on any of them? What do you think is the route forward?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's probably the multi-billion-dollar question, to be honest. From what I see happening so far, it looks like there's a handful of general purpose L2s. You have Arbitrum, Polygon, Base, and Optimism. I wouldn't even say Base, because Base is a fork of Optimism. So you really have three: of Polygon, Arbitrum, and Optimism, which are the kind of base layers. And from what I'm reading, or from what I saw in the presentation, Arbitrum is the most decentralized one of all of them. And maybe it's just because Vitalik was at the Arbitrum conference, but he noted that, and it was interesting following this. I didn't even realize that Optimism, Arbitrum, and Polygon, they all have multiple versions of their L2 that you can fork. Polygon has like 3 different types. One's like a ZK. Arbitrum has 3 different types. It's like Arbitrum Nova, Arbitrum 1, Arbitrum something. And Optimism has something different. So they're creating these tech stacks that are along this kind of crypto trilemma of security, decentralization, and efficiency. And we're seeing then these app chains come in, like we'll use Ape Chain, for example. It's a fork of one of, I think it's Arbitrum Nova, which is like the more centralized version of their tech stack. And it looks like this is where the Ethereum Foundation is leaning into. So we've been applying for grants from the Emblem side, because we're going to start expanding to all these L2s to try to become more familiar with the ecosystems. And it looks like the Ethereum Foundation is literally just leaning into those kind of 3 giants and helping them improve their tech stack to give kind of optionality for these companies to come in here. When you look at something like Ape Chain, their focus is gaming. You have the Pudgy Penguins one where their focus is consumer crypto, and they just got $11 million in backing from Peter Thiel, who led it, not the full, but led it. And it is still pretty messy. There's no, right? You can go to Solana or you can go to Ethereum, where the EVM is, it's the most used. And so it's much easier to integrate your new protocol into. But I do think it still needs that one breakout use case. Polygon was the initial winner and is largely kind of fallen flat. Arbitrum is still leading the way in terms of the decentralization, but Optimism has been getting some traction as well, because Base is built off of it. So if you're Ethereum, and it looks like this is what Vitalik is doing as well, is just accepting that his original vision of having a homogeneous L2, something like, he literally says something like Lightning was what he originally envisioned, and it's gone to something completely different, to more of this like private L2 ecosystem on top. But there is options to have more of a decentralized community. And I think it's smart from Vitalik to not push back against it, because as we've seen, the majority of protocol developers who build something, the community tends to not use it in that original vision. I mean, even look at Casey with Ordinals, where BRC20 ended up being the breakout use case, and he just completely comes out and just hates it and talks shit about it consistently, right? And it caused a lot of segmentation in the ordinal ecosystem, and largely, right, even to the degree that a lot of the people from the East have not adopted runes because he came out against their protocol and hasn't built it in a way that satisfies them. So you could create some fragmentation where it looks like Vitalik's just going ahead and accepting where it's going, and trying to basically plug in his decentralized kind of vision, or whatever the foundation wants to push, into the next kind of area. I mean, outside of that, like, I don't know really where else Ethereum goes. You do have ETHscriptions, who's also doing something similar, where they did give the Inscription team, I think, $1 million grant to go pursue it. So it does seem like they are open to the variable of scaling solutions. But it looks like they can only just focus on the major tech stacks, and then allow the other communities to go build app chains, L3s, dApps, etc. But when you do look at some of these L2s, there is not much there, right? It's or at least not many native applications to these L2s. It's like, hey, you go, like for Emblem, right? We're going to deploy on all these L2s, but it's not something that's like completely specific to one of them.
Yeah, and it's always been just kind of like fixing the jet plane while it's in the air type of environment, as a lot of this is. They moved from proof of work to proof of stake. There's been a massive tech developments all throughout their history, but it just feels like consensus really needs to kind of focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 of their layer 2s that they're really going to build out, and really get some applications moving. It's been tough to watch for the past year, 18 months. It honestly just feels like they're asleep at the wheel, and I have no idea if they're just bogged down in legal, or if I have no idea what the foundation and what Consensus has been doing. I haven't seen much of them investing in the private markets. It just kind of seems like they're asleep at the wheel. And the Solana to Ethereum trade, Solana is about 15% of Ethereum's market cap. So I think it's pretty obvious that that's going to close one way or the other, whether Ethereum comes down or Solana goes up. I'm not sure for the short term, but it seems like until that trade gap kind of closes, Ethereum is going to be in this limbo unless they kind of get a breakout app going. And it seems like there hasn't been too much progress. But there is Base. Base has been a huge development for them. But like I said, how much does that help the Ethereum layer 1 stack is to be seen. But I'd really like to see Consensus get a lot more involved here.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I mean, we talked about this years ago when you said that Solana was going to basically eat Ethereum's lunch, and I definitely denied it and thought that it would be a little bit more of a fair battle, but it's not. I mean, at the end of the day, though, you have institutions who are going to come over to Ethereum, and maybe that becomes the new kind of TardFi chain, which means that the value will go up. But to me, it looks like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are really starting to really show the different types of communities that exist there. I make this joke, but it's also somewhat true. Like Bitcoin is for boomers, Ethereum is for millennials, and Solana is for Zoomers. It really is starting to show this. Bitcoin's like a mass exporter. Ethereum's been a mass importer, right? Bringing all the synthetics and stuff to their DeFi ecosystem. And then Solana's been doing extremely well with culture. You look at all these if you just look at like the social economy, all of the content that's being created, all of the like TikTok style stuff, all of the really kind of animated or kind of like the animated series or podcast, it seems to all be happening from the Solana community. So something just to simply follow. But if Ethereum becomes a mass importer, like kind of like what the United States is, maybe it could create something a little bit different. But we'll see. We still got a lot of time, but I have to say you were definitely right on that. Something that I woke up to today, which I was actually completely surprised to. I don't know if you saw this. Fold, good old Fold, that's been around for a while. I remember using this thing in 2017. Fold is the consumer rewards application that has banking. It says we're excited to share that Fold is set to list on the NASDAQ as the first publicly traded financial service company powered by Bitcoin. That was not something that I saw. Fold is setting to go public as the first pure play financial services company powered by Bitcoin. It says with over 1,000 Bitcoin in the corporate treasury, Fold is building a financial product of tomorrow amid a wave of global Bitcoin adoption. A few notes here, and we'll get into the conversation. Market leading Bitcoin cashback debit card and merchant rewards with integrated insured Bitcoin custody and no fee trading since its inception in 2019. Wow, it feels like it was in 2017 cycle. Over 2 billion in aggregated transaction volume processed, over 45 million aggregated Bitcoin rewards. Says that they also newly launched Bitcoin rewards on bill pay, mortgage, rent, and credit cards. There's a handful of other things that go along with it. Chris, I know you've been a big Fold guy. You were one of the early kind of adopters. We both were back in the day. Did you see this news at first? And what's your thoughts on Fold being the first Bitcoin company to go public?
Yeah, I've been a fan for a long time. I saw it when you dropped it in the chat, and it caught me by surprise. Going public is a huge kind of victory. It's very expensive as well. And, that's something that in general, that the market's been missing is getting to that final funding stage of getting to the private markets. So you have all of these early stage or late stage now crypto companies that just have not been able to hit the public markets. So I'm hoping that this is a signal that crypto companies and that IPO window is opening back up. I was definitely surprised to see Fold on it. I haven't seen a lot of their recent progress. I did see that they had a 700 Bitcoin treasury. It seems like they're doing pretty well, even though I haven't really heard from them probably in the last year or so. So it's good to see them still kicking. And I hope that that's just a sign of public markets opening up for crypto companies, because some of these later stage companies really need that public funding, whether it be something like BitGo. Let's see.
You got Kraken too. I think
USDC. Yeah, USDC. Circle, Kraken, a lot of these late stage companies they need to get that funding round, that late stage funding round, so they can kind of return capital and then raise new funds. And I think that's kind of been something that's been missing in the crypto markets. So hope that's a signal for some more to come.
It'd be incredibly beautiful if you see in 25, 2026, at least 5 to 10 crypto companies go public. Some further stats here or announcements. It says the transaction implies a pre-money equity valuation of Fold of $365 million. So not a unicorn, but still, comfortably in the 9 figures. It is anticipated that the post-transaction Fold will have more than 1,000 BTC on its consolidated balance sheet. Fold expects the use of the proceeds to accelerate the growth of the company. Comes down to say that they expect the company's stock price to exceed $12 per share for 20 trading days and any consecutive 30-day trading period ending with the date of at least 90 days. Fold stockholders are expected to own approximately 71% of the combined company's outstanding shares. So props to the Fold team. I know it's just probably not easy. I do remember there was Exodus Wallet did a STO, tokenized stock offering. I don't think it went very well, but I do remember they did that. And then from the other regulatory companies, Stacks was also one of the first, or maybe they were the first company to have a regulated ICO for the Stacks token, where they raised over, I think, $70 million. So we'll see where this goes. But I mean, rewards is something that's very easy to sell to the general public. Rewards are something that exists on all the credit cards. Most of the debit cards do this as well. This is the same thing. Use your Fold checking account or banking card. You get Bitcoin rewards, cash back. They do have some gamification to it as well. If you've never used Fold, they had a wheel for a long time. It's been a few years, but they had like a spinning wheel at any time, and you could win literally like 10x the rewards on the cash back. So basically just cash back Bitcoin rewards. Another interesting one today, Hemi, a modular layer 2 blockchain network built for superior scaling, was announced today. One of the founders is Jeff Garzik, who is one of the biggest OG Bitcoin developers in the space. I was quite surprised to see this, although I know Jeff Garzik's also been he's a Bitcoin core developer, but he's also been very open to Ethereum and other developments in the space. Kind of one of the early Bitcoin core developers to not stand with just Bitcoin maximalism. Be kind of interested to see what goes here, because this would probably be the first Bitcoin core developer to enter the L2 space, to bring some of their unique aspects. Some notes here that they mention in their thread: the Hemi virtual machine integrates a full Bitcoin node within the Ethereum virtual machine. This provides the best possible access to the respective states of both Bitcoin and Ethereum. The Hemi Bitcoin Kit makes HVM's Bitcoin awareness accessible to developers to build the next generation of Bitcoin DeFi. They have something called Proof of Proof, which is a security. The Proof of Proof security delivers the most decentralized, censorship-resistant way to achieve Bitcoin-level security. It uses proof of work to deliver greater than Bitcoin finality, something they're calling super finality. There's a bunch of other things in here. Something they note: the trustless cross-chain portability. They have something called Hemi Tunnels, which provides a secure conduit for moving assets between Hemi, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, leveraging Bitcoin security to facilitate trustless and efficient cross-chain transactions. Man, we're getting the Bitcoin core developers into the cross-chain movement, as we've been saying over the past few years. Cross-chain is one of the end states in crypto, just taking liquidity, global liquidity, and being able to move it frictionlessly across the industry. Seems like a no-brainer. Chris, I know you've been in the space for a while. I mean, you've both. What's your take on finally a early Bitcoin core developer getting in on the L2 space?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Garzik has been active for a long time. He was building on Bitcoin. He was building some DeFi products on Ethereum, and I think he's possibly the CEO of Block or something like that with Jack Dorsey. This is this is a Bitcoin layer 2 or a Ethereum layer 2?
He calls it a modular layer 2. So it has the EVM and his something Hemi virtual machine, which is for Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that this is basically an EVM compatible layer 2 built on Bitcoin, something of that sort. And I would look at it as almost an extension of Block itself. So this is definitely probably something to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting what kind of products they're looking to launch with it, but my guess would be definitely catered towards high level finance. So something that would really cohesively match with the Block's business plan. Interesting development, and he's been active in the space for a long time. He's got a lot on his plate, so I would imagine that this would be a pretty serious undertaking. So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Do you think we see Jack Dorsey come out and support it since they are related through Block?
Yeah, for sure. I would almost put it as a proxy for under the Block umbrella. Maybe there's some legal issues for the separation, but I would assume that this would be under development, funded by the Block itself.
Yep. It says, so just one final quote here. The Hemi network, a new modular layer 2 blockchain network designed to rethink how we scale, secure, and build on the foundations of Bitcoin and Ethereum. It would be interesting to see Jack come out and support this because he's been pretty much a Bitcoin maximalist. But at the end of the day, all the maxis eventually kind of bend the knee and realize that you need to have some sort of compatibility between all of these chains. But of course, here they're prioritizing decentralization and permissionless. So without a doubt, I know that will probably be on the furthest scale for a decentralized product. So props to Jeff there. Some other news in the Bitcoin space. Taproot Assets on Lightning was finally launched yesterday. Today, we're excited to announce the release of Taproot Assets on Lightning, the first multi-asset Lightning protocol on mainnet. So there are a handful of Bitcoin L2s that I've seen. I think more specifically, Bob was talking about integrating Lightning into their L2 so that you could basically trade runes and trade BRC20 pretty frictionlessly. So a cool, exciting announcement here, although I know they've been working on this for quite some time. They initially announced this when BRC20 was popular. So it's been almost a year since this had happened. And now it looks like that it's finally here. Another piece of news from the CoinDesk and from the Bitcoin conference. OrdinalsBot, this is something I found interesting today. OrdinalsBot launches Token Pay for payments in Bitcoin-based tokens. OrdinalsBot, if you didn't know, is the first inscription tool that was launched on Bitcoin or for Bitcoin. I think it was in like February of last year. Emblem is partnered with OrdinalsBot in a variety of ways, specifically the Megapunks 10K vaulted collection. So OrdinalsBot's a website that helps users create Ordinals inscriptions, is launching Token Pay, an API that allows developers to create payment systems for runes or BRC20s. Token Pay from OrdinalsBot enables builders to add utility to tokens, accept payments in tokens for on-chain activities, including inscribing or minting ordinals, and pay for transaction fees on DEXs or other trading platforms. As the first, So Token Pay opens up the platform to new users and use cases, making it possible to use Bitcoin native tokens for any form of converse. As I read this just reminds me of just MoonPay for Bitcoin, which is quite a large market. And there was another one recently that came out for Solana. I think it was called Moonshot. I think I might have had that right. It sounds like this is pretty much the same idea, but for Bitcoin. So if they can nail this, and they have a ton of VC backing here, the OrdinalsBot team does, then this could be really good for Bitcoin, right? You have USD on and on ramps. You can have different types of conversion. We're just simple kind of application integrations for different types of use cases. Chris, what's your take on Token Pay?
Yeah, it's good to see. We love the OrdinalsBot guys. They've been innovating in a big way. So we're finally at the stage of the industry where we have some high level application developers that are really pushing some good products. So MoonPay, obviously, Moonshot, we talked about that the other day. Just really kind of the quality of these applications is unseen like anything else that we've come across in the industry over the past couple of years. Starting to feel like a real kind of industry that has great user interface and experience. And so that's been probably one of our biggest downfalls over the past decade, is that none of these apps were easy to use. And I feel like this is kind of this is the era of, high quality, good looking, easy to use applications. So great to see.
So a little news here, a Nakamoto card was just sold for 33.25 ETH, $113,000 through our Emblem Open collection. So it looks like there's a handful of other assets inside of this. So bullish on another Nakamoto card just sold.
That happened right now, or
yeah,
was that the same one as 2 days ago?
10 minutes ago.
Nice. So I think that's like 4 Nakamoto cards in the past 2 weeks. Is that somewhat accurate? 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I'm going to pin it to the top here. So if anyone would like to retweet it, I've pinned it to the top. I'm going to retweet it afterwards. So yeah, it's from the Emblem Open collection. So it looks like it was actually a Raw King vault, if I'm looking at this correctly. So it looks like a user had migrated this from the Legacy collection to Open because it had multiple assets inside, and then it was just sold there. So bullish, to say.
That's a good price. I think that's actually the cheapest one that's sold in the past couple of weeks. So 113,000, good deal for the buyer, and congrats to the seller.
Yeah, there was one that sold the other day through a dispenser for 175K. So it actually looks like a lot of users are getting better deals through vaulting, probably because you can throw bids up there. So you have that smart contract compatibility to find where that equilibrium is. Where with a dispenser, if you list the Nakamoto card, that's pretty much the set price unless a user wants to remove it. Then it has to go through the mempool again. Then you have to swap it to a new wallet, right? So there's a lot more steps there. So yeah, congrats to the buyers and sellers there. Other news, I have a few other topics here. Liquidium token dropped the other day, highly anticipated. They had a point system going on and that had to be 6 to 8 months or so. Liquidium token, or they announced their first utility for this. This was like kind of the initial question. It says Liquidium token holders have the opportunity to directly influence the development and direction of Liquidium. The governance system ensures that the platforms remain decentralized, community-driven, and responsive to the needs. So they go down a little bit. It looks like this is just a standard governance token with a handful of other degrees. Although I don't think we've seen anyone attempt to do this on Bitcoin yet, or at least through runes. So it'll be something to follow to see if they can nail governance on Bitcoin, whereas on Ethereum, it's been very bumpy along the ride. I don't know about governance on Solana because I don't have any experience over there. So their governance process is they have 5 steps: proposal creation, right? So that's standard. Then you have voting in the Liquidium token. Token holders are eligible to vote on governance proposals. A holder's voting power is directly proportional to the size of their token holdings. That can be a little bit messy there because you could just buy your voting power. We've seen that go horrific with the Ape DAO. Insiders will be able to use 25% of their locked tokens in voting power. Okay, so if you were part of their initial funding round, I think Liquidium's raised $3 or $4 million in 2 separate rounds. Even if you have it locked, you can still use 25% of that voting power. That's kind of interesting. Once a proposal is created, it enters a designated voting period. And for a proposal to pass, it must achieve majority approval, so more than 50% of the votes, and a 5% quorum will be added at a later date. If a proposal passes, it will be implemented in the design of the software. So a few thoughts here. Arcade, who we have a close relationship with at Emblem Vault, has done a DAO for loans. This is Liquidium's a loan platform. I have to say the experience is a little bit subpar, if I'm being completely honest here. Like the idea of having to go through the proposal process every single time to list a collection to lend against. It took us, I think, like a week or two to get the Bitcoin DGods listed. And then I see it sometimes they just like speed run a lot of these anyways, because sometimes there's urgency to get these collections listed so you could catch the momentum. So I hope they have something a little bit something different to add here in the future, because governance has been very, very up and down. Although I want to see them succeed, they are taking on a new initiative. They're pretty much the first ones through the door here. Chris, what's your take on governance tokens? First one to Bitcoin. We've seen this on Ethereum now for 5 years or so. And then I don't know about governance on Solana if they found a winning methodology or not.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see. You know, we love the Liquidium guys. I love their product. It's first class. You know, as far as the token launch, you know, happy to see them get to market. You know, I always really prefer just getting the token out there. In this particular case, I actually would have seen them, would have liked to see them pulled back. You know, Ordinal's ecosystem is so new. So even though their product is fantastic and I love it, you know, I think that they're probably going to face some unwarranted competition now because, you know, there's going to be newcomers that haven't launched their tokens, maybe to catch the second wind of the Ordinal's ecosystem that's to come. So I think, in my opinion, maybe they jumped the gun a little bit on that. But at the end of the day, it's good to see them get a token out. And, you know, let's get the experimenting going. Let's see how this governance works. It's interesting to see them go that route, but after so much trial and mostly just error on the Ethereum side. But hey, you know, let's just replay the same playbook over and over again, like we have been for the past 5 years. Nothing really changes. Life is a flat circle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you have investors and then you have community members who are farming this stuff, you have to rush it out at some point. There's just a lot of pressure in the background. You have to take things into consideration, like how long will the community actually farm this token before they get pissed off? Token warrants on the back end with your investors.
But for a lending platform, they're the only Ordinal's lending platform basically,
Yep.
and they essentially cornered the entire market. So there was really no reason to rush their token out, because if you wanted to use their product, if you wanted to get liquidity for your Ordinals, they were basically the only game in town. So I feel like they just jumped the gun unnecessarily instead of kind of letting the ecosystem develop a little bit further.
It's a good, very, very good point. I'm sure we'll hear a little bit more from them this weekend. I think inscribing Nashville starts today, so I'd expect later today we'll probably see a lot of announcements from the Ordinal and Runes and BRC20 ecosystems. Another interesting development today. I don't know if they'll announce this because of the Bitcoin Bitcoin conference. Proton Wallet was announced, which is a self-custodial Bitcoin wallet from the people from Proton Mail. I don't know if you've ever used Proton Mail, but it's I would say the leading, they might have competitors now, but it was the leading private email service. So they've now gone out and launched their own wallet here. It says, with features like Bitcoin via email, we hope to see a safer and easier way for Bitcoin newcomers to get started. And it says that it's an open source, end-to-end encrypted and self-custodial Bitcoin wallet. So right in their wheelhouse. I remember Brave did something very similar to this, which is, you know, it was the kind of the private secure web service where they have Brave Wallet. So Proton Wallet coming out in a similar fashion. I think that's just really, really bullish and exciting for everybody. I have two final comments today, but these are kind of outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem, but just things that I'm noticing. Major announcement yesterday from Pudgy Penguins, $11 million investment into Igloo Inc., which is their parent company. So I'm assuming Igloo Inc.'s the one that owns the Pudgy Penguins IP. It owns probably their consumer Pudgy kind of plushie service and over a handful of things. I was actually quite surprised that Peter Thiel's Founders Fund was the leading investor here. You don't see Peter come in that often into crypto companies as kind of the leading investor here. Chris, what was your take on Pudgy's getting another 11 million? I think that totals him up to 20 million so far.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely kind of crushing the NFT side. It's would like to see some more kind of innovation from the rest of the industry. They're just kind of running laps on every single person. Interesting to see, Founders Fund get involved in that, especially coming off of Peter Thiel's comments on how he's not super interested in maybe Bitcoin or crypto that just came out the last couple of weeks when he was saying it used to be a lot more interested to him, and now it seems a little bit more captured. But another layer too. So hopefully, they actually have a reason for a layer two, and it's just not another token launch and nothing being built on the chain. But we'll have to see how this develops. They've proven themselves as pretty serious builders, so have to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that this is, a move out of necessity rather than just something to do.
Yeah, if you watch a bunch of videos on YouTube, if you follow Luke and Nets, yeah, they have a series called Building in Public, which is actually quite entertaining to watch. I highly recommend anybody who's interested in that kind of stuff to follow, where you get to follow their whole team and their little castle that they have, and to see everything that goes into the plushies and the animations and everything of that nature. It is quite interesting. And the final comment here, after I don't know what, a year of silence, the Doodles team finally came out with what they've been building, which is called Doodles TV, a next generation direct to community media platform that bridges the gap between artists and communities, enabling them to experience and own a piece of the cultural moments that matter before anyone else. They call Create, Collect, Connect. And they go on to say that Doodles TV is a token gated platform to give fans access to exclusive community focused premieres of music, films, and digital artwork. They go on, there's like a handful of other things here. They're partnering with Base to launch a super pass, which I guess gives them access to their Doodleverse and Doodlesville. They have been promoting a movie that they've been working on for quite some time. It's funny, you go read the comments here, and everyone's upset that it didn't move the price at all. But in a similar fashion to what Pudgy Penguins are doing, these guys are stepping outside of the token space to grab attention from those who just interact with content in any type of form, whether it's movies, YouTube, etc. And then they're going to try to bring them in and participate in the ecosystem. So this is an outside crypto community type play here. A lot of people are just upset that the price doesn't move. I saw this also same thing that happened with the Pudgy Penguins announcement, that people are just upset the price doesn't move. But I think now we're kind of in a space now where the price is, if the companies are going after people who are not in the crypto space or non-holders, right? That's not really going to have an impact on the price per se. Also, just NFTs are just completely they've been lambasted, and things are going to have to change here over the near future. So final take here, Chris, what do you think about the Doodle moves? And just, I guess, overall kind of the NFT space. I know some companies on Solana have been trying to do something similar to this, but the NFT space starting to move outside of just, trading PFPs and really trying to do things that are somewhat off-chain that brings new users to the on-chain economy.
Yeah, I mean, Doodles. I think NFTs were just, especially the larger Ethereum NFTs, big Doodles, things like this. It was just a classic case of being overfunded and just trying to throw money at all of the wrong things. Luca Nets and Pudgies, they get a ton of credit, as they should, for leading the movement. But that playbook was pretty obvious. It's not like they really reinvented the wheel. It was pretty obvious that you were going to take these digital collectibles and make them physical collectibles, and really kind of connect with your users in a different way outside of just the digital realm. And it's pretty insane that some of these companies raised hundreds of millions of dollars and were not able to actually get any product off the ground. So I mean, I applaud them for trying. I applaud them for still sticking around, and hopefully they're able to build something cool and within their movie or digital kind of content that they're building out. But it's been a couple of years, and I think the progress is pretty lackluster. So I'm not surprised that the price would move on something like that. I just think that they were literally given hundreds of millions of dollars, and I think that their community and I think the founders should be ecstatic to build something like that out. That's at the end of the day, that's their entire vision. So it's kind of a question as to why no products have hit the ground, but I mean, at least they're still quote unquote building. So I have to give them some kind of credit, I suppose.
And they survived. One final note here I just saw as I was scrolling my feed. Arch Network, which is a Bitcoin execution environment. It says that they just created a decentralized Bitcoin lottery that just went through testnet. Soon, multi-generational wealth could be won in Bitcoin playing a decentralized lottery game. Very, very interesting. Arch Network, I know, also powers Liquidium. And Liquidium used to run on DLC.link, and then they moved over to Arch Network, I think earlier this year. So bullish on them. Arch Network's very interesting. I've had a few conversations with them as well. Expect a lot more announcements to come here over the coming day. Again, Inscribing Nashville is today, so expect a lot of ordinal focused announcements. And then I believe the conference starts on Thursday, the actual Bitcoin one. That's where I would expect a lot more kind of macro announcements in the Bitcoin space. If you guys are in Nashville and listening, I think Adam talks today as well. He's on a panel. So just go out and support everybody. Chris, any final takes before we do wrap it up here? What are you looking for? What are you most looking forward to coming out of the Bitcoin conference?
Just final takes. Just pretty ecstatic that crypto and Bitcoin is such a hot political topic. You have almost all of the candidates. I think Kamala dropped out, but RFK Jr. and Trump speaking, which I think is super prescient. And I think that we can't really discount how far we've come as an industry. When we talked about this, so many years ago, this really was just like a dream of something that we thought could happen. And so to be living in it and watching the industry mature and grow right in front of our eyes, it's definitely one of the greatest kind of things that I've seen throughout my life. And it's just easy to get caught up in the day-to-day narratives, price narratives, all the drama every single day. But at the end of the day, we've just come so far and really just kind of scratching the surface as to where we're going. So proud of the industry and kind of where we are today.
Yeah, me as well. I'm most looking forward to I don't even know, to be honest. I already am taken away that there's already a Bitcoin company going public, and we have all these other announcements. Obviously, the Trump speech is going to be cool. RFK coming in and supporting as well is always exciting. It looks like I keep following David Bailey. It looks like he has some other antics and surprises up the sleeve. Kamala did bail today. I don't know if he was just doing that because he knew she wouldn't show up. And so this just gave a little bit more support to Trump on the other side.
Hey, Jake.
What's up?
So did you guys know also that Fairshake now is the largest, which is a crypto super PAC, $200 million. It is the largest super PAC in Washington now.
I didn't know that. Is this the same one that Elon is donating 145 mil to, or is this a different one?
Same one.
It's the same one. Yep. Yeah. So I did see Elon come out and say that he's like, no, I'm not donating 45 million a month to Trump. I'm donating 45 million to basically like a I think he said pro freedom fund. He said this during the Jordan Peterson podcast, which was actually quite tough to watch because Jordan didn't let him get any words in. But it's exciting. Obviously, a lot of that's going to go to probably Trump's campaign because even Elon said this during the interview. He said that the Republicans are the pro-freedom movement and pro-humans at the end of the day. So I expect a lot of that to go over there. If Elon shows up, that'd be kind of interesting. We did see him do the laser eyes, and apparently he is in Nashville. So we'll see. Something to follow to. Chris and I will be back tomorrow. I don't know if Adam will be here tomorrow, but we're gonna cover more on Bitcoin Nashville. I'm gathering the list today as I see other announcements that we can cover tomorrow. If you guys are first or new to the show, Chris and I, we work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain NFT protocol in the industry. We host the show Tuesday through Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. We usually have guests, talk about Bitcoin, talk about all of the fun stuff that's happening in the space. We figured the best to do is do 2 days of Nashville coverage because we knew there's going to be a ton of announcements that come out from this week. So make sure that you guys follow the Emblem Vault account. Follow myself and Chris if you like cross-chain tooling or if you just like the show. Whether there's 5 people or 500 people here, we'll be here talking about the week. Dave, appreciate you for joining us. If you guys are down in Nashville, have a lot of fun. Really be safe out there. Enjoy the week, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, guys, have a great hump day.